Howdy, I'm Christopher Beavers, and welcome to Between the Bears and the Bulls podcast. And we have a very special show today featuring my dad, our very own senior financial planning consultant, Matthew Beavers, and Ryan Finglass. And we're going to be talking about the importance of financial planning as the bedrock of the Beavers Wealth Management Blueprint. Thanks for being here and enjoy the show. Welcome, y'all, to Between the Bears and the Bulls. This is going to be a lot of fun. I can't believe we actually convinced my dad to be a part of this podcast. But, all we had to do was make the podcast about financial planning and goal setting for 2025, and he couldn't say no.
Well, we just made it a goal that in 2024 and 2025 this would be a goal of his.
Yeah, exactly.
So once he put it down.
Yeah. No, the truth was, remember that y'all were going to put filters on me. And make me look a little bit better. So,
Dad, I'm sorry, but unfortunately that wasn't true. So
sorry.
There's going to be no filters. You're getting the unfiltered version of our senior financial planning consultant, Matthew Beavers here. And obviously, Ryan, thank you also for joining us, another financial planning part of Beavers Wealth Management. But I'm excited about today, right? I mean, we're starting off the year 2025, and we thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk a little bit about goal setting and financial planning, which, Dad, I know kind of your role on the team, and when you had started a number of years ago, that was kind of your focus, right? And so I think it'd be fun to kind of talk a little bit about where you started off, right? And you were a CPA for your entire career, and then what were you thinking, right? You decided to come and
was this a goal of yours to transition out of?
Never was a goal. No, it never was a goal. It just sort of kind of happened. I know Christopher talked about it on the last podcast a little bit, how I got involved, but from a planning standpoint, I've always been a huge planner. It even goes all the way back to your mom, Pam, my wife, in high school, met in high school. And at that point in time, we literally sat down and established goals for our future life. Everything from houses we were gonna build and buy, to how many children we wanted. And shockingly, because I'm convinced of this, we established the goals, we achieved them. And a goal setting thing I think it's continuous. You achieve goals and you set new goals. And so I think it was really critical. But that whole process, I think, stuck with me. And I always enjoyed that in my accounting practice, was the planning, because you really got personal with people. You got to talk to them about what they wanted to do in life, what they were trying to achieve. And so that all goes back to the planning aspect, because you can have goals and you can have dreams, but if you don't have a roadmap to get to those dreams, it makes it really, really difficult and tough. And I've always said that people don't plan to fail, they fail to plan. And that sounds kind of like a silly tagline, but it's so true. And so that whole process growing up kind of got me that direction in my CPA practice. And then once you forced me to join the team, then it just was a natural transition, and it's been incredibly rewarding.
All right, so I know most people, we get to see it, but show them what you carry around with you all the time, because I mean, this just kind of shows you.
And this is Ryan loves this, but I mean, what I have
Matt was one of the first people you met in your life. Matt and Pam were the first two people.
That is very true. Yeah.
I met a lot of other people before I met Matt, and I never came across somebody that kept their New Year's resolutions in their shirt pocket. Right. I'm not kidding.
It's true, but the thing that makes it really easy, they're exactly the same as they were last year, because I still haven't lost that 10 pounds I was looking. So it's easy to keep it there.
Yeah.
That's good. That's great. Well, and I know we've talked about this, right? Goals aren't achieved by accident, right? You have to actually put in the time and plan it into it. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk a little bit more today about why at Beavers Wealth Management we really focus so much on the financial planning side of things. Why is it so important? Why did you decide? When did you join? Almost a decade ago?
Yeah, almost 10 years ago.
Okay,
yeah.
So why did you decide at that point, 10 years ago, you had a successful CPA practice, right? And you decided to change careers completely, join me in this practice to head up our financial planning part of Beavers Wealth Management. Why did you decide to take that kind of risk?
Well, probably a number of different reasons. The biggest overriding was I looked at an opportunity to be involved in your career and help you build out and fulfill the balance of what you wanted to do from a career standpoint, and even in a small area of financial planning for me. And that was very intriguing for me. And it was one of the things that I got the most satisfaction from in my accounting practice, because you can make a difference in people's lives, make a difference in them achieving and doing what they wanted to do. And the biggest concern I know people always had in my accounting profession, and even now, is that they're always worried they're going to run out of money. And when you implement financial planning in there, you give them that level of confidence, they're going to be okay. And in most cases, not just okay, they can actually dream a little bit bigger than what they were originally thinking they could do. So that was very rewarding to me.
Yeah, and I'll add on to what Matt said. My path to learning financial advising, and not just that, but really having financial planning being the core of a financial planning practice, that's something that we see a lot with clients, is that, like you said, a lot of people, if you don't plan to succeed, then you plan to fail. Mm-hmm. And for the first time that people go through actually sitting down and gathering all the necessary information to build their first financial plan, it's eye-opening, because most people don't have a good grasp as where they're currently at, which I think is shocking. We talk about it all the time. People spend more time planning their yearly vacations than they do their financial future. Yeah. And if you were just to spend half of that time, or the same amount of time as you do when you get to the beginning of the new year and plan out all the different things you want to do, use that as an opportunity to also plan out some of the financial goals, because it really isn't just money goals at the end of the day. It's life goals, right? And I think that's a big part of what people maybe don't see when it comes to financial planning. They think it's, if I hit X return, I'm going to be here in 10 years. Here's how much money I can expect to have. Here's where all my different accounts are allocated, and how do we estate plan moving down the years. But really, it's planning out your life. What's more important than that? Is your yearly vacation more important than planning out the next 10 years? I think if you put it in the right context and just get people to have an honest conversation with themselves, they really will take the time to do it. And it adds incredible value to their life, not only just from an information, knowing where they stand, but steps or things that they need to do to better themselves from a financial standpoint. This really is a great tool, and why we build our business around it, because it gives us all of the different things that we need to know from investment management perspective. Here's how we align your investments with the goals that you have.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think about how the industry's changed so much, right? I mean, a number of decades ago, you were stockbrokers, right? Mm-hmm. Our business was stockbrokers, and you'd have a great investment idea, and you called up somebody and you said, hey, this is what you need to buy. And then it's kind of gone from stockbroking side of things to, okay, you became financial advisors, where you'd have different questions as it related to financial issues in your life. And then that kind of morphed into financial planning. And now it's more of like the financial counseling aspect of things. Yeah. And I think that what at least I see in our practice when I sit down with both of you and we're with clients and you're presenting those plans to people, it's amazing to me that even though the bedrock of what we do from investment management, when people think of advisors, I really don't think that that's even the most important thing that we do for clients, and what clients think is the most important thing, because it's what you talked about. It's that realizing, okay, I have 5 daughters and 5 weddings, and one of them wants to have a wedding in Disney World at the Grand Floridian, and how in the world am I going to be able to do this? Can we get there? And for a lot of people, money really does kind of create a lot of angst, right? When you think about it. And quite frankly, it's a lot more fun to plan vacations than it is to think about your financial future, because that can create the uncertainty, creates that fear. And I think ultimately that's what keeps people from maybe putting in the time. And so I think one of the things that y'all both do that I think is so beneficial for clients is helping them spend that time to create that thing that they're scared to know about, right? It's like the ignorance is bliss piece of it. Well, you make them realize that it doesn't have to be that way. And by putting together that plan, there is a way to succeed. And so I think that's something that y'all do really well. And so I'd love to hear, we talk about different stories, right, of things where we've gone through this with clients. Anything that sticks out at you as to, this was something that made me realize the importance of the financial planning process of what we do. Anything that comes to mind?
Yeah, I think Matt hit on a bunch of great points. It's obviously a lot of fun to go through and help people realize that these big bucket list items, travel, weddings, things of that nature are always very fun to help kind of not coach somebody through it, but just make those goals seem a little bit more easier to digest, if you will. But the one thing that I think stands out in my mind, and Chris, you brought this up, was personal finances and money for a lot of people is a pain point that brings a lot of anxiety and fear with people. And so I think what stands out to me is it's like if you're a pilot, you have a checklist of things that you have to do before the plane can even leave the ground, right? You've got that checklist and you know what steps, what things have to get done. And I think that's where I find the most, at least from going through this process with, number of clients, making sure there's not any pitfalls that they have, really opening up any kind of, I guess you'd call them areas where they haven't put a lot of attention to, or just basic things like having a will, making sure they have a plan for their estate afterwards. Those are the things that I honestly enjoy the most going through with clients, because that's where I see the greatest sigh or relief to where they know, okay, I don't have to worry about this anymore. It's fun to talk about goals, but whenever I can sit back and say that I'm comfortable, I've taken care of all the things that I have to take care of to make sure that my loved ones and my family are all set up, that's really what I find the most value out of, at least from my perspective, going through this process with clients.
Yeah, that's great. I think about when you're talking about pitfalls, you bring up a interesting topic. I honestly think a lot of people, when they think about a financial planning process, I think they also are fearful of the time they're going to have to take and spend into it. And that's why I think a lot of it is the inaction of, oh, I don't have time for that right now. We obviously, and we all know this at Beavers Wealth Management, that is the bedrock of what we do. And that's, of course, something that we talk about early on in every relationship. But yet there are still some people that don't necessarily take that step to do those financial plans or for us to build them. And what I have found is that I think maybe one of the reasons that you don't see clients do that is they have this perception in their mind that it's, oh man, that takes so much time to build one of those things. I am just so busy right now, I'll get to it later. So talk to me about how because y'all do this day to day, right? This is something that y'all do on a day-to-day basis. What is the expectation for somebody who's coming in to build a financial plan? Y'all are building one for them. I mean, what are the nuts and bolts of that look like? How much time do they actually have to take in on the front end to be able to build one of these things? And is that really just a misconception that they're going to have to spend hours and hours, of their own time to be able to get something in front of them where you can at least start having a conversation?
So yeah, it can be very intimidating for people, but I know one of the things that Ryan's helped us do here on the team is develop this questionnaire. It's very straightforward. It's very simple. There's some questions on there, but more importantly, I'll use your airplane and pilot analogy. We're sort of the pilots to help guide them through this whole process. There's certain people that will give us a Excel spreadsheet that has a million different things on there, which is wonderful. Or we have the other extreme where people go, I don't know, maybe I have a bank account here or there. We help them pull that information together. And so we can be as involved and as helpful in pulling that together as they want us to be. And it's really, you probably found the same to be true, it's that anticipation on their part that this is a huge project, and because we can help walk them through it, we've done it enough times, it for them will not be intimidating. And it's the type of thing that when you have somebody guiding you through, kind of prompting, well, what about this? What about, do you have a checking account for the kids? Do we have a 529? So really with the involvement, I think that we can add to that scenario. It really makes it painless. You found probably the same to be true.
Yeah, definitely. I think that initial kind of, I've got all this homework that my money guys gave me to do at home to kind of reconcile all my statements and accounts and put it all together so that way I can give it to them. That does take time, but it's worthy time that you have to take. And once you get past that step, I think that's really where I see the greatest kind of parallels between some of the things in my personal life. When I bring running into this, running is very similar to financial planning. It's a plan. If you follow the plan, it'll take you to where you want to be. You can achieve whatever you want to do in terms of marathon running goals or what have you. And that's something that I learned going through that process myself. I'll say the one caveat to that is that there is some level of anxiety that you get whenever you have a plan, because you feel that if I don't follow this plan to a T, all my goals are thrown out the window. I have to adhere to it 100%. And that's just not the case. As it is with running, if I don't feel good or my knee hurts or something, if if I take a day off and just continue to try and my goal would be 90% adherence throughout that training plan, I know I'm still going to get to where I'm at. And I think that's also important to realize when it comes to financial planning as well, is that the goal is a guide. The plan is a guide. But life happens, things come up, and if you have to stray away, let's figure out how to get you back on track. And so I think to answer your question, it is a lot of work, but then there's also, you kind of have to coach your own self to say, okay, if something happens throughout the next, because the plans, for some clients, they're 50 years that we're mapping out for their lives. Things will happen within that period of time. And the great thing is that they're flexible. We're able to go in and actually change and tweak some things depending on what life throws your way, right?
Yeah. It's funny. I remember a client telling me one time, they go, I utilize y'all as, kind of my accountability partner, right? And you brought up working out or, fitness, and it's like a coach where I just need somebody to kind of keep me accountable. And sometimes maybe those financial plans do that, right? They create a system of accountability for people of saying, okay, this is what I planned on spending. All right, this is what we did spend, and maybe it's more or less based upon what the plan looked like, but then you can adjust, and then you have that relationship to say, okay, here's what we need to do moving forward in order to make sure that you're going to still be able to achieve all your goals. And so I think that that's a key driver when you think about what we do on a day-to-day basis. And so I appreciate y'all talking a little bit about that. Dad, I want to go back to, you went from the tax side of things, right? You were a CPA for how many years?
30 plus years.
30 plus years, okay. And nothing obviously against CPAs, but I think people are surprised when they hear that you're a CPA because you seem to actually enjoy talking to people, even though it was difficult getting you on this podcast. You have the type of personality that obviously is, you enjoy working with people and doing that. But I'd like to know how you incorporate what you do or what you did as a CPA into your business here on the planning side, because I'll tell you this, I think what's kind of funny, and I don't know if I mentioned this to you, Ryan, but I'd been in this business for 7 or 8 years, and I found myself repeatedly calling my dad on a weekly basis, being like, Dad, I've got this question that I don't know the information or the answer to. And it was funny to me because even though what I thought being a financial advisor was all the investment side of things, which he didn't have a background on, really the questions I was getting from more clients was more on the planning side, right? Which in your practice, even though you were a CPA, you did a lot of that planning, right? So talk a little bit about that intersection of what you did for 30 years and kind of what you're doing now.
Yeah, because an aspect of what I did in my accounting profession, because we work with individuals, we work for businesses, and one thing I found when I started as a CPA, because you were a CPA, people thought you knew something about everything. And just because of the way I was built, if I didn't know, I would find out and I would learn. And so I developed this knowledge base, let's say, that included everything from insurance aspects to even so much so had people that were going to Disney and wanted to know, well, what's the best way to get on this particular ride, or how do you plan your day? And so really, because we got much more involved in clients' lives, it became a very personal relationship. You probably heard me say, we don't have clients, we got family members. And that's because that's how we look at it. We look at it, I look at it, Ryan looks at it, Christopher looks at it. Whenever we're sitting down with a client, whether it be a financial plan, whether it be investments, we go, what would I advise myself to do, or a family member? What would be best for them? So if you keep that kind of as a litmus test towards everything that you do, what you do is you get more involved in people's lives. And our CPA firm was very different than most. We were not traditional CPAs. I always said that. We had a little more personality, if you want to put it that way, amongst my partners than most CPAs did. That allowed us to get closer to our clients. That was one of the things that I enjoyed most, because I didn't just want to, in that career, didn't want to just prepare a tax return, here's your return. I wanted to get involved. Tell me about the kids. What are you doing? And that would spark different ideas. We just had a situation the other day. A client wanted to talk about, how can I transfer some funds to grandchildren? Well, what are some ideas on how we can get some funds so that they can help afford a new car? Things that this particular individual couldn't afford to do when they were a kid. And so it gets to be much more of a personal relationship. And when you can help people achieve their goals or do something that's important to them, like help their grandkids, it's just incredibly rewarding. And so that's what we did in our practice. That's what I carried forward here, and even ability to do it more so, because I'm not facing a tax deadline. And so I can put more energy towards the things that I find most rewarding. So
now you said something there that concerned me a little bit, because didn't you start off your point there and said that you don't actually know something about everything? Because as your son, I remember as a dad, I was made to believe that you knew everything, right?
First of all, I'd say when I started as a CPA, I gained a lot of knowledge. And one thing I did find raising you and is the fact that from the age of about your age, from about 18 to 25, I became incredibly intelligent, because he didn't believe anything I said up to that point in time. And that's not really true. But yeah, what I didn't know, I'd fake it with you.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
And I was a good actor, because you apparently bought it.
Yeah, well, I will tell you, the thing you don't fake is knowing what you do as it relates to building successful financial plans. And tell me, what in your mind is a successful financial plan? What makes a successful financial plan versus just another financial plan out there? What makes the Beavers Wealth Management financial plan something that's truly unique?
Well, I think the thing that makes it successful is we help drill down and identify what people want to achieve, whether it be the trip to Liverpool, whether it be gifts to the grandchildren. And what a successful plan is being able to tell that family member, client, that they can do it, or just as important sometimes to say, hey, we can't get there, or y'all can't get there with the things that you want to do, but if you'll tweak this a little bit, tweak that a little bit, you can get there. So it's not just telling them, hey, you can do it. There are those more difficult situations where we say, hey, you can't do it, but we can get you there if you'll consider the following. So it gives us the opportunity to delve deeper into these situations. But to me, that's a successful financial plan, is where we can help people identify what their goals are, achieve their goals, even if initially it didn't work. So
yeah, and I think too, setting those goals, I think when you talk about what builds a successful financial plan, if you were just to say, because there's services, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do on your own, DIY, build it yourself financial plan. But you've got Matt right here who says he knows a little bit about everything. And once you hammer down and get through the actual financial plan of setting the goals and finding out that path to success on that side, I think the financial plan, to be considered a success, also has to add value to all parties involved, not just the families and clients, but to Beavers Wealth Management, because for us, it's a great tool to learn more about the exact needs that our clients have and translate that into custom-built investment solutions that align with those goals. Because I think that's something that you don't get. You can go build a financial plan anywhere. You can go hire somebody to manage your money, but really merging those two things together to where they work in tandem with each other is what I consider to be a successful financial plan.
Yeah, that's really good. And I think that, I guess the question becomes, how do you then empower people to take that step, right? Because I agree. I think that what we do within our own financial planning process is something that truly is unique from that of the industry, right? And let's be honest, I mean, how many CPAs sit currently in an investment advisory role like my dad with 30 years worth of experience, right? And you always say, we're not giving tax advice here, but let's get real. Having a 30 years as a CPA and being able to think of things from so many different angles is invaluable, right? No doubt. But how do we empower people to take that step of, all right, I'm gonna finally spend the time to figure out some of these goals? I mean, what are those kind of hot button issues, if you will, that we need to press or that we press?
I think the one thing that I stress, and Matt probably could attest to this too, is that you never want to see somebody come asking for a financial plan when, one, it's either too late or they're in a situation where it's gotten so painful because they haven't taken the time early on to do it. You want to avoid that at all costs. Planning works ahead of time. You want to be proactive with planning. You don't want to try and solve all your issues after they've already happened. So I think if you just listen to yourself and know exactly what it is that you want to do, I mean, that right there, what's more important than that? We talked about this when we first sat down. People spend more time planning out vacations and things of that nature than they do for their financial life. Maybe it's just me, but it's hard for me to see a world where that shouldn't be a priority for most people.
And I think it should be. And I think one of the other things that a financial plan will do for people, not only help them identify what their goals are, but it helps us develop a structure for them that's manageable. Because just like starting a financial plan can be so overwhelming for people that they won't ever start. It was fear of getting started that I can't accomplish this. What we're able to do with the program and the planning that we do here, come back to them with very simple steps towards achieving those goals. You want to go and take that trip? Well, then you need to save another $500 a quarter and put that away. So we make it manageable and make it much less intimidating.
Yeah. And last point on that too is, you talk about it all the time. What do markets hate more than anything? Uncertainty.
Yeah.
What are the markets made of? Individuals like ourselves sitting back all around the world contributing to the global economy. So I think people hate uncertainty just as much as markets do. And what does the financial plan give you? It removes that uncertainty. So I think that in and of itself is a very powerful and compelling reason for people to just take the time to do it.
Yeah. I'll say this and kind of sum it up here, but I knew my dad would be perfect as a financial planner and just a planner in general at an early age. And really that had to deal with your ability to map out a Disney trip, Dad. So maybe you talk a little bit for a second. Where did that come from? Because I remember you had like the exact times. We're going from this ride to this. Back when they had fast passes, you had to pull, and we're running from one place to another. Where did this obsession begin, and why in the world do I now have this same obsession? You know,
So I apologize for that. I don't know exactly where it came from, but I think where it came from, I've always been a planner. Always been something that was interesting to me, and I've had high expectations of myself and my family and the people that we work with. And the only way to achieve those is you got to have a plan and work towards that plan. But yeah, I remember those days when your mom wasn't quite as bought into the plan, and when it's like, okay, 7:30, we got to be up, we got to be out the door because we got to hit the following 6 rides before lunchtime. But it came naturally to me, and I don't know if I became a CPA because I was built that way, or becoming a CPA made me become more so that way. But it's intriguing to me. It's a challenge, and it's being able to achieve. If it's getting 20 rides in a day at Disney, that was a huge accomplishment.
We did. I think we got all 20 rides in.
We did.
There's no doubt. You know,
with time left over.
Exactly.
I'm not wired like that. I would have wanted to just stay at Epcot and go spend an hour here and an hour there and
go to the different countries.
Leave free willingly, not.
No,
we got to be here.
That's not how a Beavers Disney trip is.
The very first trip we took to Disney, at the end of the day, Christopher was probably 3-4 years old. In the hotel, he sat down, his legs were hurting so bad. I have a picture of him where he has ice cubes on his leg. But guess what? He was with me the entire time.
Absolutely.
We made it, we achieved it, and we were better for it.
I love it. I love it. So I guess if anybody's listening, not only do we construct financial plans, but we'll also construct a superior Disney itinerary, is what I hear. So you can come to my dad for a number of different points as it relates to that. This has been a lot of fun. I enjoyed getting to visit with you. Like I said, it's been, I know for we've been talking to my dad for years about getting him on a podcast and in front of the camera. So thank you for finally doing so. It was a lot of fun, and I think when you talk about things like the importance of a financial plan, especially when you think about the importance of that financial plan and the bedrock of the Beavers Wealth Management process. I mean, I think that it made sense to have an opportunity for y'all to kind of sit here and talk a little bit more about that. So thank y'all again. It was a blast, and look forward to a successful 2025.
Yeah. Thank you for having us.
Oh, thank you for having me. I got to go work on my next Disney trip.
Yeah, exactly. We'll catch y'all then. So appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
Back to work.